Tonight on It's the Law, what right do you have to your parents' possessions after they pass away? Well, it's a question that one viewer in Dublin needs answered, so Jay Davis is here to weigh in. Deborah from Dublin writes, my father recently passed away and his common-law wife has all of his possessions, even items that belong to my mother. He did not have a will, nor did he ever say what he wanted to happen to his assets. What legal rights do I have to at least some of these possessions?
Okay, so they're calling it a common law marriage.
Right.
The first thing is to look at, is it a common law marriage?
Okay.
Common law marriages in Georgia terminated in 1997.
Okay.
So nobody who's entered a marriage or intended to do it via common law can do it after that date. But they had to have been entered prior to 97. If that's the case, it's just like any other marriage. And rights on a marriage, if there's no will involved, rights are 1/3, no less than 1/3 to the spouse, and the rest is divided between the other parties, unless there's only one child, and then it's 50-50 with the spouse and the child.
So if they got married into a common law marriage, quote unquote, after 1997, technically they're not married at all.
There is no common law marriage after that point.
What is a common law marriage, just so we understand?
A common law marriage is a marriage where people have gotten together. It used to be a more common thing.
Okay.
But
no pun intended,
yeah.
right?
But in 97 they stopped it because people are living together not intending to be married.
Right.
But prior to 97, if you lived together for a period of time and you held yourself out as married, if you told people, hey, this is my husband, this is my wife, and that's the way you introduced each other, you had children together, you had just never gotten married, then over time you created a marriage just by the effect of doing that.
Well, I guess then going back to regular marriages in general, you know, because there's people everywhere who have a situation where their one parent passes away and their parent gets remarried. So in order for them to get any belongings that belong to either parent, then what needs to happen? Do they need to have a will in place? How does that work?
Well, if the parent wants the children to get the assets, then they will do that naturally.
Okay.
Your spouse, a lot of people think that when you die, your spouse gets everything, and that's not the case.
Okay.
When you die, your spouse inherits equally with the children, unless there's more than 2 children, and then your spouse can't take less than 1/3. But if one person dies, the spouse only gets up to their third, oftentimes.
Okay. So the kids do have some rights.
So they do have rights. So they have rights off the first parent, unless most wills say go to my spouse first and then to my children.
Okay.
So if they have a will, then the other spouse probably inherited, and then if that other spouse gets remarried and doesn't create another will, then that other spouse is going to inherit at least 1/3 also.
All right.
But
Jay.
the children in the viewer's question, no matter what the marriage is or isn't, they're still entitled to their portion depending on how many siblings there are.
All right. Well, Deborah, there you go. Answer to your question. And as always, we want to hear from you. What legal issues have been on your mind? Are you in trouble with the law? Remember, your questions can remain anonymous. Just send an email to aminelli@41nbc.com. Jay and I will do our best to talk through it on the news at 6.